Hello and good evening. It's Friday night, the last one before New Year. So the last one of 2024. Some things haven't changed this season right enough or this year, and we'll discuss that and so much more in the company of Dennis Newell and our special guest becoming a regular on the show now. It's Morton assistant manager Andy Millen. Good evening to you, gentlemen. How are we?
Good evening, Cammy. I'm fine.
Did you have a nice Christmas?
Evening, Dennis.
Andy, did you have a nice Christmas?
Yeah, lovely. Christmas
Good,
was a good time. The family was good.
Smashing. Dennis, yourself?
Very quiet, yeah. Very quiet.
That's the best way, is it? No, that's always the best way.
Yeah, it's good.
Anyway, as I touched on
Yourself,
very
Cammy?
briefly, just nice and quiet. You know that's it. It's the best way to be. You know, that's at our age, kids are all grown up. Obviously, you two have got grandkids, but as I say, kids have all grown up. But thankfully, I don't have to deal with that kind of nonsense. They don't call me Scrooge for nothing. So anyway, moving on. Looking at football up and down the country, as I say, some things haven't changed this season. Man United are still rubbish. Spurs aren't doing much better. Rangers are rubbish. Where do we go from there? Dennis, you mentioned you fancy touching on the English Premiership first tonight, so should we run through some of the scores there? As I say, Manchester United not been great. Spurs with a couple of disappointing results. Manchester City still can't get a win, and it's all setting up nicely for Liverpool.
Well, without a doubt, you know, you touched on Man City there, and I don't know what your thoughts are on it, Andy, but I've looked at them and I just can't put my finger on it. They're lackluster. They don't seem to have any desire. The whole thing has just fallen at the bottom of them totally. Even the manager doesn't look inspirational anymore. And I actually thought he'd chucked it when you get always these false notes in social media and stuff. And I thought, oh, has he wrapped it? But I'll tell you what, it can't be that far away if they keep going down the same road. Because there's only so much, what would you say, diversion away from the real problem they've got is, and they're just not playing for that manager.
Well, as you'll know yourself, Dennis, Cammy, that confidence is a big thing in the game, and they're certainly well short of that just now. But like any manager, I think that's now 12 games, 13 games.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how good a manager you are, he will be under pressure, Dennis. No doubt about that.
Yeah, no, you always look at it and you go to yourself, well, you know, people used to say to me that you'll never get the sack at East Stirling because they don't pay any money. Who else are they going to get in? No, it happens. It doesn't matter what level you're at, right? But the last 12 games, they have struggled big time in relation to any other manager would have gone by now. So there is a point where it's a breaking point, and I don't know if the supporters are actually calling for his head yet, but he was talking yesterday about maybe not even the club maybe not qualifying for Champions League. Now, that would be horrendous for Man City supporters. And then obviously they've got a lot of other things going on behind the scenes as well. So they're having a bit of a nightmare at the club.
Well, if you take the time he's been in there, Dennis, it would be 6, 7, 8 years. He's had a remarkable run, consistency of winning trophies. But unfortunately, at the moment, they seem to be really, really struggling. So I don't know how long his credit will work or stay in the bank for him.
Yeah, there is that. And you look at the big players like Haaland. What's happened to him? I mean,
again, Dennis,
I don't know the player he was.
Just confidence, really. And again, there's a lot of expectations and demands, no doubt at that level. And again, he's like anybody else. He's short of confidence. You can see that. Even last night, he gets a penalty kick. Missed the penalty kick for 12 yards. 3 shot at goal. Can he do it?
No, definitely not. But we'll need to wait and see, because what happens when he comes up against Leicester, which is in Sunday's match away, I think he could maybe be in real trouble in relation to the demands of the club. That he might not see the turn of the year if he gets turned over with him.
You never know. And even from his point of view, the manager, Pep, he'll be really, really disappointed, because this is probably the first time in his career that he's actually suffered. You can suffer a defeat, but as many defeats as he's had.
Yeah, but Andy, when you look at it, you know yourself, until you've tasted defeat, you never know what the job's really about. I mean, that would be
what we say, Dennis, yourself and myself, I think there've been times in your career when you've been used to getting bumps. When I played in the Premier League and worked in the Premier League at St Mirren, you could go 7-8 games without winning a game.
Yeah.
And then you maybe win 1 or 2 games, drew a couple of games, and you go back to losing another 7 or 8 games.
Yeah.
So without being disrespectful, he'll not be used to losing games of football the way they have been. So it'll be new to him, and it'll be interesting how he feels about it and how he's handling it.
I think he handles it.
I mean, sorry, on you go, Dennis.
I think he handles it really well, considering. But you can see there's that sort of a, what's this question going to be next? Because I'm not maybe going to take to it. You know, Postecoglou's got that already.
Well,
you find it up here as well with managers when the chips are down. They're not prepared to actually, what would you say, be confronted with awkward questions or any confrontation. They just bite back. I think he's done exceptionally well considering the poor run they've been on.
But he's done well, but you've got the Spurs manager and he likes confrontation.
Yeah.
He certainly bites back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with Pep is this is the first time he's had to handle any kind of adversity at all, you know. So this is going to be the sign of how good a manager he is. Can he turn things around? Can he get the side out of the dramatic slide that they're definitely in the middle of? Well, hopefully for him it's at the end. But as I say, they're definitely in the middle of this slide. They can't get a result against anybody at all. You know, a Manchester City side would normally be very, very comfortable against a disappointing Everton side, you know. If they're 1-0 up against Manchester United with 2 minutes to go, they would see that out, you know, and that's only looking at the last couple of results they've had, you know, so there's something definitely no right there somewhere.
But if you look at the game I just mentioned there was Leicester away, there would be foregone conclusions that Man City would definitely be a banker in winning that. But the next couple of games after that is they've got West Ham, which you would have assumed they would have taken care of, especially at home. And then after that, they've got Brentford. Now, the 3 games that I've mentioned there, you would just make an assumption, they'll take care of them. But see the actual place they're in just now, I would query whether any team coming to play against them would be frightened of them, because there was a fear before. That fear doesn't exist anymore, and teams are coming and having a right go, and the result is they're getting dividends because of it.
Yeah. The other thing that Man United, Dennis and Cammy, that maybe the team's needing to be evolved, changed again, because the players have been together for a long time. There's a group of players there that maybe coming to the end of their time at that level, at Man City's level, and now he's maybe need to change his team. As I say, when you look back at, he's never had any problem at Barcelona, or he never had any problem at Bayern Munich, at top teams. But I think this is the longest he's been at any club. And
we mentioned that last week. Last week, Andy, is something we touched on was the age of some of the players that are there, and getting back through them all again. Basically, there is a possibility that it's needing a new, fresh approach, and the January window could be the thing.
But that happens at every level, Dennis, and probably the best manager that was able to do that in English football was Alex Ferguson, because he changed constantly. He had maybe 5 or 6 stalwarts, but when the big hitters eventually he felt came to their end, he got rid of them. He moved them out. Yeah, but he just kept changing. He kept evolving all the time, and that's one thing that you probably need to do to keep everybody on their toes as well, Dennis. It keeps them fresh as well, keeps them hungry.
Well, obviously, there's been casualties within the Premier League in England, just moving away from Man City, because we don't want to see Pep Guardiola being a casualty, because I think he's got too much to offer.
I don't think he will be. There is too much in the bank.
100%. I would agree with that.
I think I'm just, what would you say, having a poke at it in relation to thinking, is it a possible thing that could happen to him? Yeah. I personally don't think so. As you say, Cammy, he's got a lot of stuff in the bank there in relation to the history. So I think they'll turn the corner. And I think once they get one good result under their belt, they'll go on a run again. But for winning the league now, I think that's well away.
I would agree with that. Liverpool were too far in front.
Oh, amazing.
England's pretty much looking like Scotland just now this season in terms it's almost a one-horse race. You know, you only need another defeat for Chelsea. You know, the Arsenal have fallen off. Who'd have thought Nottingham Forest were going to be the closest challengers, you know, to Liverpool, you know, and that's the way it's almost shaping up to be.
But what it also shows you, Cammy, is possibly we ridicule our own league. I understand why at times.
Yeah.
But even the English Premiership might not be the same quality as what everybody says it is with the top teams, because the top teams are suffering. If you talk about a Man United, a Spurs, even your Everton's and all that, the teams that were, if you want to see the top half of the leagues, they're struggling now, and the only team with momentum and consistency is Liverpool.
Yeah.
Seem to be struggling.
But you know, when you have a right look at it, you could pick teams that you thought might be in the relegation zone. And Bournemouth's one of them. Last 6 games, last 6 games with Bournemouth, they've won 4 and drawn 2.
Yeah.
And I would never have thought in my wildest dreams, with no disrespect to Bournemouth, they were good enough to compete in the Premier League where they could win 4 out of their 6 games and draw the others.
And one of them against Manchester United.
Yeah. And then you look at Notts Forest.
Brilliant.
Again, a team that you just felt were never ever going to return to the Premier League. Yeah. And there they are sitting up there in 3rd spot now, doing really, really well.
Yeah. You said about Man United, I think everybody wants to play Man United now.
Right.
Well, there's no fear there at all, Andy.
Oh,
you know, there's nothing there at all. And I mean, Dennis is talking about what sides have done in the last 6 games. Man United have won 1 and lost 4 of the last 5.
Yeah.
You know, and that victory is the one against Manchester City.
But there's there must be a lot of problems inside that place. You know, I mean, with the amount of players that are there, you see they carry on even with Rashford and that. And the manager's not really had that bounce. You normally get a manager comes in has a bounce. He's not even had a bounce off the players, can he?
No.
And he's got a major job. I don't know if he actually realised just how big a job he was taking on.
Yeah, I think he'll do well. I think he will do well. I think he'll be the latest success, the latest successful Portuguese manager, you know, to come into the Premier League down south. You know, I think he will do things, but it just shows the size of the job to turn Manchester United around that anybody has to take on. You know, I mean, it's a phenomenal job, I think, to turn that club around from the state that it's in just now.
But you know, I mentioned the fact that that's what his age is, 38, 39?
Man, but 38, 39.
Yeah. And I thought at the time, he's too young for this job. But there's an old adage, if you're good enough, it doesn't matter what age you are. Now, but having said that, I think looking at Manchester United, you need somebody that people will find they are respectful for and will understand the track record. Now, I know they've tried this before at Man United and it's not worked. But I just feel that this guy, if he doesn't get respect of the players that are there, how is he going to get that club turned around? Because as we mentioned it before, that was very difficult. And I would say that for Graham Potter when he was at Chelsea. A lot of big stars there and getting them to actually perform under the sort of a remit that likes Alex Ferguson would come in and you go, wow, wait a minute here. What's happening? We need to toe the line. I don't think that the young manager will have that. These players will probably be in there setting their own ways and maybe not want to be doing the things that the new manager wants. And with them being young, I don't think it lends itself to maybe players thinking, I don't really want to be here.
As you're talking about that, Dennis, see, I think the last time I was going to say that, the society, everything's changed dramatically. I mean, Alex Ferguson left in 2013, and since he's left the building, Man United have declined. But that also, not just the football side, the whole structure of the club. And again, because society's changed, the football has changed. It's just the mentality of the players have changed. Dennis, no, every player, but there's a vast majority of players, whether it be in Scotland or England, have changed their ways, and also the style of management's changed now, Dennis. Where sometimes, if you want to say, you never really got a cuddle. It was more of a kick in the backside. You got the odd cuddle, but nowadays, if you were to kick somebody in the backside, it's deemed as we can't do that. So everything's got to be told how good everybody's doing, even when you're not doing well. So they've actually made a road for the rain back, Dennis.
Well, I've noticed that in quite a lot of interviews. There was one when I watched it on TV, and they said after it, was that a bit unfair of them being singled out? And I'm like, what? He hardly said the wrong word about the guy. He just questioned maybe a bit more commitment or effort or something like that. And it was like, wait a minute, you're not allowed to do that. I'm sorry, that's why your team is getting beaten, because you're not prepared to actually have a go at a player and question them. If it's a job of work, right? Doesn't matter whether you're an astronaut or whether you're sweeping the streets. See, if you don't do your gig right, you're out the door. It doesn't happen in football.
No,
doesn't happen. Nobody seems to question it, because what will happen is, if you don't like it, I'm not born. I've got an agent there that will get me another club. Some dafty will pay for me. And that's the way it works. The players are now bigger than the club by a mile. And the problem you've got is, how do you manage these players properly that you get the best out of them? And it's not about coaching anymore. That's down the toilet years ago.
The thing is, Dennis, maybe Steve Clark said this maybe about 7 years ago. It's cheaper to get rid of a manager than it is to get rid of a group of players. Yeah. And that's true. The more you see that now, especially down south, is the amount of managers in the Premiership that lose their jobs, and players are still there. And I don't know what's going on at Man United with players and all that, but if they boys are on 250, 300 odd £1,000 a week, nearly 400 grand, you're not going to move that, Dennis. No chance.
No. And that's the thing with Rashford. Rashford's on upwards of 300 grand. You know, now looking at the other sides in England, there's nobody going to pay that kind of money for him. You know, so your only hope is that he goes abroad, but then Manchester United are probably going to have to still pay a proportion of his wage as well.
The only place you could go, Dennis, that will pay that and more is going over to the oil industry. That's the only place that will pay him that kind of money. And that's the only hope the Manchester United have. Yeah, but as a club, Dennis, I was a big Man U fan, especially in the late 80s, early 90s, 2000s, I think Ferguson. Love watching them. I wouldn't watch them. I don't watch them. Even last night against Wolves, didn't watch the game. Could you just drive you mad? And you look at players.
I've seen less of them, Andy. I must admit. Liverpool, Man United, there was a wee affiliation with Scotland in relation to that would be the teams I would maybe watch. The London team has never really come into it. But now I must have, same as you, Manchester United don't exactly set the hell on fire for me to be turning on. It's still a favourite club.
They don't play with a drive or an intensity. Everything is just laboured. And whereas the Man United that I was brought up to watch, you were off the back of your seat. You were sitting on the edge of your seat saying something's going to happen here all the time. But you don't get that now.
But Cammy, you've mentioned you think that the young guy, the new manager, will do a good job for them.
I think he'll turn things round. You know, looking at what he achieved at Sporting Lisbon, you know, I think he will turn things round. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, this is the guy who really started the Manchester City slump. You know, because they went to Lisbon, scored early, and then lost 5 goals. You know, so in one of his last games in charge. You know, so I think Amorim will be a manager who, given time, will start to turn things around. He's got the same issues that the previous manager had in terms of some of the squads just are not Manchester United quality. You know, and Andy, you're talking about the play and the style of play is very laboured. It's very, very dull to watch. I think a lot of that obviously comes down to the players that Manchester United have. They don't have anybody with any drive. They don't have anybody who you'd want to get off your seat or who will get you off your seat, you know, who will excite you. And I think that's going to have to slowly start to change. You know, Manchester United are going to probably get worse before they get better. And I think if they give Amorim time, you know, to bring in 3 or 4 of his own players, get rid of some of the duds and some of the dead wood, you know, weed out the 35, 36-year-old midfield players that they have, you know, in the shape of Casemiro. I'm forgetting his name, the boy at the heart attack, the Danish boy. You know,
Eriksen.
You know, he's past his sell-by date. You know, Fernandes at times flatters to deceive. You know, so that's the middle of the park. They made a massive mistake, I think, in getting rid of McTominay. You know, but
Tammy, you've got to look at it. They're still playing Harry Maguire there. I mean, to me, that is a road to disaster. When you talk
Dennis,
about players that are finished, I don't think
playing,
that he will contribute much more towards getting that team up the league, because he's a common denominator when there's errors at the back.
But Maguire's getting a game because Manchester United have been unable for the last 2 seasons to keep a centre half fit.
You're right.
You know, that's the problem. They've not been able to play a consistent defence. You know, their fullbacks are continually injured in the shape of Shaw. You know, and that's the problem, I think, at Manchester United, is there's no drive through the middle of the park. They can't keep a centre half fit, and they don't have a player that knows where the back of the net is, because you go out and spend 50 or 60 million pound on a 18, 19, 20-year-old prospect, which Manchester United at the moment cannot afford to do. You know, they need to bring in some proven talent to sprinkle around some of the youngsters that they're trying to bring through, you know, and I get why they're trying to bring through a younger player, you know, and whatever else, but they just cannot afford to do that just now if they want to be moderately successful. And Manchester United sitting down in 14th spot with 6 wins and 8 defeats. 4 out of the last 5 they've lost in the Premier League. That's not Manchester United, you know. But
is this going to be then a window in January that we've never seen before? Because
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I'm not just talking about Manchester United, though. I'm looking at other teams, like we've mentioned, Man City. Will they be looking for refreshing it? You look down, Tottenham as well. West Ham, maybe even. Bigger clubs than Everton, who just treading water to stay in this division. But you look through the division and you say to yourself, well, you've got Notts Forest, Newcastle, Bournemouth, Fulham, Aston Villa, even Brighton. They're all big hitters at this moment in time. When the big guns are sitting there labouring and struggling to get points, are they going to be really in the market to strengthen the team so they can get back to where they feel they should be?
I think the Christmas or the January market is a difficult one, Dennis, especially when you're going to spend big money. And normally, your bigger teams don't want to let go of their better players, because if they're still in Europe as well, you're still thinking, and they'll maybe keep them into summer if they can, get a better price that way as well. You know what I mean? So I don't see much. There might be 1 or 2 coming in and out, but I don't see too much business getting done with the top teams, Dennis. I don't see that.
Yeah.
There's a fair comment came in for the Gorgie Boys podcast there. I don't know if you guys can see that on screen. Manchester United have no leadership on the park or off it. Now, I think obviously in the shape of Jim Ratcliffe, they're trying to get some leadership off the park, but certainly on the park, they've nothing. Fernandes is a disaster as captain because he's far too self-centred. It's far too all about him, you know, that he doesn't lead by example. He doesn't drag his teammates along either. I think he's the wrong captain.
That's why I mentioned Harry Maguire. He should be the mainstay of that team in relation to being the club captain and the figurehead for that, because of the years he's been there, the amount of England games he's played. But that's a true statement. He's not a leader on the park. He should be on and off. And the problem is that until you rectify that, your team's never going to. It'll always be disjointed. And that's a problem when you start for your centre half. And you know that, Andy, as well. Because if you don't get that leader, especially at the back, you've got troubles. And Maguire struggles to handle his own game, never mind players around about him.
That message you've got in, Cammy, he's a jambo, that boy. Yeah. I'm sure he would actually say himself at his team. It's a massive, massive thing in football, modern day football, Dennis. And I don't want to sound like an old fart, but the days of Man United, your Keanes, your Bruce, and then if you want to go modern, your Giggs, they were all leaders how they played on the park. If you go to what's going on now, even the modern day game, very difficult to go and find leaders. Very difficult. Then honestly, even the Scottish League, if somebody says to me, Hibs have got leaders, I'll go, where? Hearts have got leaders, where? Kilmarnock, where?
Yeah.
Rangers were, Celtic were, and Celtic have probably got the one that's probably their leader in terms of how he plays is the boy Callum McGregor. But he's no that type of leader that I would emphasise that he was aggressive and drove the game on. They don't have that. The game is it's evolved that much now. Then if you get one or two of these players about your team, people actually think they're brilliant players now. They players of then would make an absolute fortune of today.
Yeah.
Because there's a lack of that. There's a lack of that in the game now. A severe lack of people taking responsibility and being that individual who might not be the best player in his team, but he would drive people on and take that responsibility. But you don't get that now. It's difficult.
No, you need a player in the park that can motivate people who are having a poor time. And that, to me, lacks because the quality's not there.
But what you also get is normally you would have maybe, I don't know, you could have one, maybe 3 or 4 players that epitomise how your manager was as a person.
Yeah.
So they drove that on. And I don't mean that. That's just, I don't want that to sound negative, but that's just society in the game. I see it. I've seen it from when I started to where I'm at right now, and I see it, and I just shake my head at times when I see. Oh, and they actually think they're leaders. They think they're, and you go, and a strong wind, they would just blow away. They would just blow away. And when it gets too warm, they'll not be there. I mean, I've heard people actually going, well, they're the punters, 2 men they're not going to come and watch, or they're really abusive. I'm going, what you find it? Go and play at a big club and see how it is when you get 50. I mean, the boy Clermont at Rangers now, I wouldn't like to be in his shoes when you go to Ibrox and play the next game, because within 20 minutes, if they're not winning, you'll be getting it, and they'll be getting it. All the players will be getting it.
We'll come to him in a minute or two anyway, Andy, but they've got Motherwell the next one. Poor Motherwell, that's back to back, which is a bit strange. But just finishing off in the Premier League, Liverpool are a class act and they're worth watching now. Aston Villa have been blowing a bit of hot and cold. They started off with house on fire, but they're still sitting in the 9th spot. I thought at times they flattered to deceive, but they're still 100%. Good value. They're still good value. But the two that surprised me at this moment in time is Notts Forest and Bournemouth, sitting up there above Man City and Man United. Incredible. Yeah. Incredible.
Forest sitting in third. You know, 4 wins in the last 5 has been absolutely outstanding. And as you said, Bournemouth unbeaten in the last 6. You know, that's 2 sides there. Obviously, Forest have got to go around manager again. You know, I think he's having his 2nd or 3rd go in the Premier League. Again, another Portuguese manager, you know, and Bournemouth, unknown. You know, Gary O'Neill left a couple of seasons ago. They brought in an unknown manager. He's done really well as well, you know. But I think if you're looking at that, you're right, Dennis. They 2 sides have been very, very surprising. But on the other side of the coin, I think Brighton and Aston Villa have been another 2 sides this season who have probably disappointed a wee bit. Maybe along with West Ham. Under Lopetegui, or however you pronounce his name, you know, the ex-Spain manager, you know, so...
but your Aston Villa's probably done really well, seeing in the Champions League. They're involved in as well. So he's a good manager.
Yeah, does it. The fantastic. Done really well.
They started well and have dipped, and again, the European exploits might be taking a bit out of their group of players. But he always, whatever club he's at, normally in Europe, he normally does well, and it wouldn't surprise me if Aston Villa get up near the top in terms of possibly getting into maybe quarter-finals, semi-finals.
Yeah, 100%.
There's still no guaranteed. I'm just looking at that now. They're sitting, we're just drifting a little bit of the Champions League here, but Aston Villa is sitting in 5th at this moment in time with 13 points, but so is Arsenal in 3rd. Aston Villa in 5th, and then you go right down to the cut-off point for automatic play. Then you get into the playoffs. So you've then got in 12 points Borussia Dortmund in 9th place, and then you go down, and so you've actually got 6 teams in the top 8 on 13 points, and then you've got 12 points to. There are teams there from 9th spot to 19th spot that could actually leapfrog, and Aston Villa could be in the playoffs. Now they've got Monaco in the next game, which should be okay because Monaco are sitting in 16th spot. But
in their last
it just
game,
shows you they're no home and dry by any manner of means.
In their last game, Celtic at Villa Park.
Yeah.
That
could be massive.
9th to 24th for a playoff, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
9th to 24th, I'm sure, for the playoff.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're looking at the sides there who are going to be in playoff spots, and yet you're potentially could be looking at Real Madrid, Celtic, Manchester City, PSV just on the fringes, Dynamo Zagreb at the moment on the fringes, PSG are out with that, so you're looking there at some really, really big clubs potentially. RB Leipzig haven't got a win, they haven't got a point yet, so there's definitely a lot there to be contended with, and this format in the Champions League, as we've all touched upon, is absolutely outstanding and gives a lot of excitement. Barcelona won their last 5, so, and they're sitting in second spot behind the Liverpool side who are unbeaten and won all 6 of their Champions League game. What season Carly's thoughts having?
Every game meaningful, Cammy, because before when you went into the small groups of normally 4 teams, one team could get isolated, whereas most of the games at the moment now are all meaningful. They're all playing for something right up to the end.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that top 8, you've got 3 English sides, a Spanish side, a German side, an Italian side, and 2 French sides, all in that top 8.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, and then another 2 German sides following that with Dortmund and Bayern Munich on the fringes as well. So much to look forward to.
But there is no way that top 8 will not be shuffled about like a pack of cards. There's
100%.
I would imagine there's a few of them are in for a shock. I don't think the big hitters that are sitting first, second, and third. But even at that, Arsenal's only in 13 points with the 2 games remaining. So you look at it, you say to yourself, from third spot all the way down, as I mentioned, to I would say 19th position, they're all shouting to try and get into that automatic promotion. Yeah.
It's the same with Celtic's next game. Obviously, their second last game is at home.
Yeah.
So they'll be looking and needing 3 points, and then going down to Villa might not be difficult for them. Dennis, you know what I mean?
Well, if you look at it, I think the Villa game, will take care of itself. I'll be very surprised if Aston Villa don't beat Celtic. I really would.
If Celtic can get a win in their next game, I think that will guarantee them a playoff spot. I think they'll be assured of a playoff spot if they can win their next game. But it's so much to look forward to still within that Champions League. And as you say, the next round of games, Dennis, is going to be so pivotal, before obviously that last one. And I think a lot will be decided in terms of where they're going to finish within the table. But there's still so much up in the air as well, So, the Champions League, the format's been outstanding.
Yeah. If you look at young boys, so they've played 6 games and they've not got any points. Now, that would be a total disaster for Celtic if they can't go and turn them over big time because they've taken a right few beatings, young boys. So that game's on Wednesday, the 22nd of January. So interesting to see.
I mean, look at the bottom 3, and 2 of them are ties that Celtic have beaten. In shape of Leipzig and Slovan Bratislava, and the other one's the side that they're due to play next. So that's points that Celtic have to take. That's points Celtic games they have to win. Anyway, speaking of Celtic, let's move from the English Premier League and indeed the Champions League to talking Scottish football. And obviously, Dennis, there was all the talk. I think Rangers supporters were very excited in terms of, if we can win our next couple of games, but it's when it comes to the Celtic game, the next Old Firm game, if we win that, we go to 6 points and we're very much still in the league table. And then they go and basically drop a massive clanger against St Mirren yesterday, So there's now a 12-point gap at the top of that table again. And hate to say it, but the Premier League, guys, is decided before the new year turns.
Well, I look at that, and we had this conversation last week when I said the jury's still out irrelevant of what he does between now and say going into January. And to be honest, that result was horrendous yesterday for Rangers. I think the January window, when we talk about windows, would be very, very important if the manager's still in the job, which I think he will be. But at the same time, I look at it and I go, the three players that he's got that play up front with Rangers wouldn't make a half-decent Ali McCoist. The three centre forwards he's got are no fit for purpose. They'll score the occasional goal, but it's pretty poor. And Andy, you've watched it. I know you'll not be as critical as I am because you're still involved in the game. But when you look at that as a Rangers team, I'm not saying they're at Ross County or wherever they are with Dessers and the other two. The bottom line is that is not good enough for a Rangers Football Club. The amount of chances they're getting and the lack of conversions. I really get wound up with watching it. But the big problem you've got is the manager believes in these players and thinks that they will be good enough to do my job. He's not in touch with reality. He really isn't. If he thinks that the best he will do, and it'll not be acceptable at Ibrox, is to be second, because that's just not acceptable. But no, Andy, your own thoughts on the forward line.
I saw the game last night. In the first half, you're actually watching. You're thinking he's actually trying to win this game. You want to throw it away because there was no energy in the game. It was very lethargic. And you're thinking, then someone get the penalty kick, which was a crazy decision coming from Jack Butland.
Should he have stayed in the park, Andy?
I don't think he just made a mistime challenge. Then it's a penalty kick. Me a Schubera. It wasn't as if he was. I'm not saying it wasn't deliberate, but he made a crazy decision to come in an area he shouldn't have been in. He gave the penalty away, and then they're chasing the game. And to be fair to Rangers in the second half, they improved, but because you couldn't be any worse than what they were in the first half. But some of them were excellent. And I'm not saying they deserve to win the game, but they certainly deserve something at the game. And then you go, just what you're saying there, all of a sudden they lose the game. Celtic have done the business before, and then all of a sudden they're 12 points. And for me, I don't see Celtic lose. Celtic will drop points, but they're not going to drop 12 points, Dennis. I don't see that. And it'll be worse for Clermont when this derby, Old Firm derby, comes in New Year. If he was to lose that, I wouldn't like to be at Ibrox. But again, Celtic and Rangers were excellent in the cup final. But as I would say to other people, Rangers couldn't play any better. Celtic couldn't be any worse. That was Rangers at their maximum, Dennis. And as I would say when you play your maximum, you don't win games of football. There's a trouble. You're in trouble. In trouble. Because Rangers were excellent. Rangers couldn't play any better than that. That was them at their best and still couldn't win.
You're spot on, Andy. That probably sums it up best. That Celtic couldn't have played any worse, and Rangers couldn't have played much better. I mean, I thought, and I praised them the fact that both teams were absolutely brilliant, and it served up an absolutely amazing cup final. But your bread and butter stuff on the Thursday, you turn out and you look at it, and you're trying to get a lift to get into the festive period or the January fixture against Celtic, and you get beat 2-1 with St Mirren. What does that tell you? That tells you that you're not right. And you keep looking at the players that are in that team. And it just for me, I just can't accept that the three forwards with Danilo, Dessers and Igmania. Is it Igmani? Igaman.
I can't pronounce his name. You can.
Zigaman.
But the one thing at the Old Firm, Dennis, you'll know, even through the years, go back to McCoy, Haitley, Johnston, whoever it may be, they scored 20 odd goals a season.
Yes.
That's what an Old Firm striker has to be. An Old Firm striker in my day would be scoring 20 plus because of the amount of chances that are created.
That's exactly it, Andy.
Alan McCoy would tell you that if he went to play, which he did, Kilmarnock, he might get 3 or 4 chances in a game, and he would maybe take one. If he went to Ibrox, he'd maybe have 10, 12 chances a game. He might take 2 or 3, and everybody thought, brilliant, you got a hat trick. But he could have had a lot more than that. He's constantly making chances. But you don't get that.
That's my whole argument. The three players that I have mentioned are having numerous chances and they're no cashing in. And then when they score a goal, he's a right good player. He's not a good player. He's not a good player to be pulling on an Old Firm jersey.
I mean, if you go back to even a few years back, you get Chris Boyd, 20 plus, Kenny Miller, 20 plus, Haitley, McCoy's. I mean, that's what your Old Firm strikers normally based on, especially in the domestic game.
Negri.
But Negri as well. But as I say, that
before that you want to go. Listen, Negri could get a game played for Rangers.
I'm thinking of somebody that just pops out who you'd never really heard or known of before, that basically has scored goals in abundance because of the amount of chances it was created and they could finish them off. There was no sign of the bargain hit a dozen times in the post or hitting into the corner flag. I mean, these players just were in a different league in relation to the return you got from them.
But it's a poor result for Rangers. They'd be really disappointed. And what happens now? They go to Firth Park on Sunday, and it's a must-win again, because if it doesn't, then the next game is the Old Firm game. And I don't see Celtic, who play St Johnstone, I don't see St Johnstone getting anything at Parkgate, because they're especially at home, they're flying. Celtic.
Yeah. But you know, Andy, sorry, Cammy, on you go.
You go, Dennis. On you go.
The point is, that would have been a great setup if Rangers had turned St Mirren over. And I said that last week. I said, great opportunity in front of you.
Yeah.
St Mirren, not world beaters at this moment in time, but doing very well. And basically, if you go there with the confidence that you've had coming to the cup final not that long ago, go and believe in yourself. Go and do the job that you're paid to do. You can set yourself up that says, by the way, we're ready for this match against Celtic in January the 2nd. They're just a damn squib.
And
all that away.
If they go back to 96, they're still to play them twice anyway. You know what I mean? So there's still plenty to play. But then I think 12 is. I think that's
12's too big.
Well, even at that,
even at 9, Andy, and even if they had won the Old Firm game, to take it to 6, you're still saying Rangers have got to win every single game, or Celtic have got to drop a point here or there. Even at 9 or 6, it's still a big gap. But at least you're not embarrassed in terms of how much of a one-horse league this is.
You're keeping that alive a wee bit, Cammy. But whereas when it goes to 12, and the last thing you need is to go to 15, because if it goes to 15, then it gets worse.
Well, you've got your January match, January the 2nd. If Celtic win that match, just give them a trophy there and then. Yeah. Because it's done, well done. And I'll leave my own thoughts until then as far as what Rangers are doing, because even if you go and strengthen it, and the valid point was made by Ian Harrison last week and yourself, Cammy, Rangers need to strengthen it, but where are they going to get the money from? So they're really struggling. If you can't get the players to produce against St Mirren, you shouldn't be at the helm long term, because you're not going to get the finances. You obviously believe that the players you've got playing are going to do your job. They're not. And the result is you need to get somebody in that can work a total shoestring, either get better performances out of the players you've got, or have a few nuggets somewhere that you can bring in for next to nothing. Because this treadmill that he's going on now, believing that these are good players or they need time, is not acceptable anymore.
But Dennis, do you think he really believes that these players are good enough, or he can't come out and slaughter them? That he can't come out and say he's useless, he can't hit a barn door. That my defence is absolute garbage, my keeper's making stupid mistakes. He can't come out and say that, because they're the only players he's got. Whereas previously at East Stirling or Andy, I'm quite sure at other clubs, where you're able to go in there and give players a hairdryer, or back them in public and slaughter them in private. But I don't even know that you can do that now.
That's what I'm saying, Dennis. The manager might be unhappy. You say he was unhappy. I would imagine that Clement would have been unhappy at half time. He's certainly at Morton Football Club. Do give him a breath of fresh air. Again, some folk might not agree with it, but he's black and white. So if you're doing all right, you'll be fine. But see, if you're not doing all right, you can be guaranteed at half time that there'll be a few chosen words to individual players, and that's it. But did you come out publicly and do that? No, I mean, I wouldn't do that, Sammy. Wouldn't hang anybody out to dry.
No.
But how many players now can you kick their arse and tell them you've been garbage, or or as you say, you're left probably having to give many players a cuddle rather than that kick in the arse, and say to them, look, you need to pick up, you need to improve. I don't think managers now are in a position where they can do that with players. I might be wrong. Obviously, you can correct me, Andy, but
I've actually said that earlier tonight, that society's changing. I would agree on that. That's what I'm saying. That there's people that in Championship that you work against, and they don't say a word to a player, even though that individual is probably need a wee jag, as I would call it. Because, and I'm not saying anything that I never got myself as a player off of managers, and you go, and yet sometimes I know this for a fact that Dougie Emery could be frowned upon because he's so animated and he's so demanding.
Yeah.
And one of his own supporters last week gave him into trouble because he was criticising his own player, how he was playing.
It surprises me, man. I watch some of the matches and I see a player making a mistake, and it's almost like it's an acceptance. Some of them need to look at themselves in the mirror, and instead of seeing tattoos and the haircut looking great, have a real true look at what they're doing as a profession. You're not playing football, though, Cammy. As a profession, and be in the position that you've got to earn your crust. Yeah. Work on what's your weaknesses and be contributing on a Saturday or whatever day it is to your team. A lot of them don't. It's like, I'm a superstar. I see that in the Premier League in Scotland with the hairstyles and everything. The boys coming from foreign countries, they think they've arrived and they're big hits in their small goldfish bowl. They're wondering about Edinburgh or wherever it may be. Look at me, I play with Hearts, I play with Hibs. Are you good looking yourself?
Well, you just said there about two teams that I would say that out with the old firm are big clubs.
Yes.
Hibs and Hearts. And you only have to look at the condition that both of the clubs, although Hibs have picked up the last couple of games, but Hibs and Hearts should never be in that vicinity. Because one, they're a big club, the budget. But again, there's something wrong in these clubs as well. Dennis, they should be tapped off comfortably. And I don't mean to win the league, I just mean at the top half of the league, but where they are now. I mean, Hearts, I go, oh. And Hearts is a huge club, Dennis. Huge.
I know.
Huge
We've spoke at length about
the biggest club
Hearts scenario, but if you look at the league, though, Andy, the league at this moment in time just shows you how easy it is to climb. Hibs were dead and buried, and David Gray was an hour or two probably away from being dismissed. They're now sitting in 7th spot, just 5 points behind Motherwell, who we were singing their praises last week at being absolutely outstanding for being in 4th spot. So you're really looking that even Aberdeen now are getting caught up. So you look at our teams, and Rangers, still think it's going to be Rangers up there second, but the rest, there's nothing there. There's nothing there that you can't look at, and you know that as well as I do, Andy. When you look at your fixtures, you go, that's a free hit. That's a 3-pointer. We'll get a point there. So you've got a rough estimation of what your season is going to curtail. You don't look at it just, who have we got next week? We make it 3 points. You're looking throughout the whole season to where you can get points and how your team is going. Now, when you look at that league, Hearts are really struggling at 16, but 2 wins and they're up to 7th spot.
But that also shows you, Dennis, as I said maybe earlier, about the standard. You get Celtic's consistent mostly. Rangers a wee bit. Right, Aberdeen started and then they've dipped. But the rest of the teams, Dennis, for the bottom up to even Motherwell, they're lacking consistency now. You're right in saying Motherwell get a lot of praise, but there's Hibs won 2 games and they're literally 3-4 points away from them now, and they've not even started the season.
That's right. Yeah.
So it'll all start to take place. 100%. And then you've got St Johnstone with a new manager to come in. They've not really had the kick off the new manager yet.
No.
And then Dundee, who were brilliant last season, they've hit a sticky patch, Dennis. They can't buy a win now. So they're getting dragged down as well. Because
terrible result for them.
I would imagine Hearts will pick up somewhere along the line. You would imagine that. But and then you have Ross County, who that's their first win away from home in something like 23 months.
You know,
but Andy, we've been saying that about Hearts all season. We've all been waiting for this Hearts bounce, and it hasn't come.
Agree with that. No,
and
again,
that's the thing.
The new manager's come in and he's not really had a bounce either off the players.
No,
I think though, the lack of forward line there, and I keep saying it every week we talk about Hearts. You've got to look seriously at Shankland being your main supply of goals. It's not happening. You need support. He really does need that extra help because it just looks lacklustre. And to be honest, he probably needs 3 or 4 goals and he'll be away.
I'm surprised that and again, obviously I don't see him training him. I'm not the manager, but the boy Liam Boyce has never really had a run of games. I know he had a bad injury, but he's back fit now. And I would have thought that somebody like the boys playing beside Shankland, the boys can do the running, and Shankland just drops into areas and that. But he doesn't seem to. Maybe the manager doesn't fancy him.
Yeah, there's obviously something no right there because when I watched Hearts against Hibs, I looked at it and I went, you've no kick started yet. You've struggled in Europe. You've had the breather now. You're out of Europe. It's time now you should really go for it. And of course, which doesn't help them, Sunday's game, they are up at Ross County. Now, Ross County coming off the back of that great victory against Dundee, that's a right hard shift for Hearts. And if they're going to turn the corner, they're going to have to work really hard.
But not normally, Ross County pick up their points at home. They're normally decent at home. Yeah. That was a surprise, beating Dundee. So, a lot of people would say you would expect Ross County to beat Hearts on Sunday, but who knows? You know what I mean? But normally Ross County are a better home team than they are away. They pick up most of their points at home. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, they've looked quite decent in the last few games. I know they've been turned over in numerous games where they had 4 in the bounce there where they were beaten, but they've shored things up just that little bit. And against Dundee, they did, in my eyes, deserve to win.
It's a great result. Going to Dundee, great result. I mean, for Dundee, it's a poor result for them. Because that's a kind of game that they've been wanting 3 points to keep themselves higher up in the league. But they seem to be getting dragged down a wee bit.
But you know something? Since the start of the season, I've been waiting on Hearts going. And they've never stopped. And because of the way they started against Rangers in the first match, I thought, oh, by the way, they're going to be up there, going to be challenging maybe for 4th spot, 3rd spot even. No. And I'll tell you what, the new manager, I would imagine, will feel under pressure. I'm not saying the club will, but he will feel under major pressure if they don't get a result up at Ross County. And his players have got to start doing more.
Well, I've seen now the board are starting to get under a wee bit of pressure for Hearts fans as well, So they're the ones who have appointed the manager, So I think they're starting to feel the pressure. And I've seen a few shouts for Andy Budge out as well as that as well.
You can bet your boots at time Castle will be nice and warm the next home game. Guaranteed.
We're the only place in Scotland.
If you look at it, they've then got Motherwell in the 2nd of January. Another tough tie, right? So they're up at Ross County, then they've got Motherwell, and then you look at it and you say to yourself, Dundee United away on the 5th of January. Yeah. Between now and the 5th of January, there's a lot of really major points that they need to play for, and they need to start very soon picking up points and results. And also, I think what you've got to realise is, I think the Hearts supporters like to see football played. They don't like to see it just battered from back to front. I think they like to see good football. And the bottom line is, they're not. That's never been served up to them at this moment in time, as much as it should be. And I say right away, you've got to start scoring goals, and he needs more support up there, Shankland, to see if he's going to be the finished article for them on the rest of the season.
Yeah, indeed. But anyway, looking at the fixtures in their Premier League for the next 2 games, obviously games on Sunday and Thursday. So on Sunday, we've got Celtic at home at St Johnstone. Should be a home win for that one. Hibs against Kelly. That could be an interesting game. Rangers visit Motherwell in the Sky game with a 3 o'clock kickoff, which is obviously at the same time as 5 of the other games in Scotland. The Ross County Heart of Midlothian game you were talking about, Dennis. Dundee visit St Mirren. That's not an easy tie for them. And game of the day comes in 5:15, and that's Aberdeen going up to Tannadice. Well, that would have been game of the day 2 or 3 weeks ago, but obviously Aberdeen on a quite a dramatic decline. And then on Thursday, we've got Ross County visit Aberdeen. As you say, Dennis, you've got Hearts at home to Motherwell, Killie against St Mirren, the Old Firm derby, a 3 o'clock kick-off again, same as the rest of the games. I bet you every other Scottish side will be pig sick at that one. That being a 3 o'clock kick-off, Rangers and Celtic. St Johnstone against Hibs, and then Dundee United again featuring in the late game in the Dundee derby at Dens Park. So that's the next two games. The next two games that our sides have, obviously in the Premier League there, Dennis.
Yeah, and then of course before you know we are on the Thursday, you're back into matches on the Sunday again. So there's no respite. And I'll tell you what, I would imagine in that period before the 5th of January, there will be a manager will have left a Premier League club.
Oh,
yeah.
I think so.
It wouldn't surprise me, and I think it could be the Hearts manager again, But moving on into...
I'm not going to put my neck in the block of who it would be, but I've got a feeling that there's that much on a knife edge with certain clubs now that somebody will go.
I think the minute you look at fans starting to go on the back of the board, and starting to be very, very critical of the board then are forced into making a decision. And I could see it being that Critchley is out the door already at Hearts and they look to bring in somebody else. But as I say, moving into the Championship, just now...
Again, just game tonight, which has started off 12 minutes, it's still nothing each. The team that your own team, Andy, beat last week 2-0, Dunfermline and Falkirk, nothing each. That's not a bad start for Dunfermline.
Yeah, good start. They'll be hoping to do a bit better than what they did last week, but I would expect Falkirk to edge that game tonight, Dennis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would think
that's live on the BBC, so fair play.
I was reading today that supposedly they've sold over 8,000 tickets for that game tonight.
That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Unbelievable.
Premier League teams didn't have that last week.
Dunfermline is a massive club as well. Great infrastructure. Falkirk's the same. Two teams that are more than capable of being at that top end of the Championship. I know Dunfermline's no, certainly Falkirk are, but a team that when you look at a place in the Premier League, both clubs.
Andy, how many times
is a discussion for later on?
Yeah, Andy, how many times is your Morton going to be ending up playing near United this year? Every time I look at the fixtures, it's there United versus Morton.
It's just that's Scottish football for you, Dennis. As I say, they should make the league bigger. Premier League will never get bigger, but the Championship, League One, League Two, they should amalgamate, put them into two leagues.
Well, and even that's what I was going to say.
Even if they've got to lift, maybe bring two teams out the Lowland League and make it 16 and 16, something like that, Dennis. I personally, myself, I think that would be the best way. And you get to play each other home and away, and it would give you time to put your cup games into it, Scottish Cup, League Cup, save all this hullabaloo at the start of the season. But that's me personally, Cam. I would have two leagues.
There you go. There's the discussion, Andy, for the next time you're on. Right. League reconstruction. We've not discussed that, Dennis, for quite some time. So
that's right.
A discussion. But as you say, you've got Dunfermline Falkirk just now. Tomorrow, as you say, Greenock Morton visiting Ayr United, Hamilton and Airdrie in the Lanarkshire derby, Thistle at home to Queen's Park, the Glasgow derby, and then you're getting Wraith Rovers against Livingston, purely and simply because there's no more clubs in Fife other than obviously Dunfermline for Wraith Rovers to play, and Livingston can't play in Lothian. And then on Tuesday night, Andy, as you mentioned earlier, your own club take on Partick Thistle. So some interesting ties there in the Championship as well, guys.
Yeah, but Andy, you've got two difficult ties there, but that would make a massive difference to yourself. You'd be sitting up there in 5th spot, as against sitting in 7th, and if you could get maximum out of the two games.
Obviously, Ayr United are one of the form teams, Dennis. They've been really consistent, and you're also playing Partick Thistle as well. So two teams that are certainly geared and obviously financially geared to go and win the league and challenge the league. Because both of these teams have been heavily backed well. The managers have been backed well with the people who run the club. But again, I've been at Partick Thistle's another big club that are more than capable of being in the Premier League. Ayr United are trying to get where they think they should be. That might take 2 or 3 years down the line. But the chairman of theirs backed Scott Brown really, really well, and also trying to redevelop the stadium as well. So a big part in the back to the chairman as well. Ayr United has done really well.
And into league.
Andy, when you look at yours, you've had no bad results, so because where you're sitting now is it the last 6, the last 5 you've drawn 3 and won 2. Again, if you just switched a couple of the draws into victories, you'd be
whatever way you want to spin it, Dennis. You know what I mean? We've did okay. We've not been as consistent anywhere near, but that's through the managers change maybe probably a full group of players, Dennis, and we've got boys that haven't played championship, younger ones as well, and they're just learning on the job. But if Morton were to survive in the Premier League, in the championship, that's the most important thing, because the teams above Morton are big hitters, Dennis, and anybody that's listening to this, or maybe they don't understand, that means they pay big financially compared to Morton, and they are.
Yeah.
To be fair, they've been well backed. But unfortunately, I always say there's only one golden ticket for that league, and if whoever does they go up, they might be in trouble come the end of the season, if not next season. Financially.
Indeed. Moving into League One, we've got Alloa at home to Stinishmuir. These ties tomorrow, all at 3 o'clock, obviously. Tayside Derby, Arbroath against Montrose. Dumbarton against Kelty Hearts. North of Scotland Derby, Caley Thistle against Cove Rangers. And Queen of the South taking on Annan Athletic in the Dumfriesshire Derby. So it's all Derby Day tomorrow, rather than obviously into the new year. But you look at that league, Dennis, and obviously yourself, Andy. Arbroath, a dreadful start to the season, but we talk about turning things around. They've now sitting clear, 2 points clear of Kelty Hearts at the top of the table, and you're starting to see a wee bit of gaps opening up in that League One now. So Arbroath 2 points clear at the top of Kelty Hearts, who are 2 points clear of Steny, who are 2 points clear of Alloa and Cove Rangers. And I'm not going to keep going with the 2 points clear off, but that's the way it is in that league just now. Inverness, Caley, obviously, and Dumbarton cut adrift at the foot of the table there. Caley will be hoping they can drag a few results together and they can catch up with Annan Athletic, who are above them. But it did promise to be such a good league, that one, but it really now does look as if it's going to start taking shape, and I expect Arbroath to push on in that one now, guys.
When you look at that, though, there's 12 points up for grabs between the end of this month and the month of January. 12 points. And what a massive difference that could make, because even if you look at Cove Rangers, or we'll take them on 5th spot, they're sitting in 25 points. A 2-match swing, never mind the 12 points, they could be at the top of the league. So, but Arbroath have been going magnificent. I mean, they had a great result last week, winning 4-0 against Annan. So, you know, they're obviously playing with a lot of confidence. And the team that surprised me and have really done excellent to stay up there is Kelty Hearts. I don't know, what's your thoughts? And I'll ask Andy Cammy, because obviously he's still heavily involved with it. A team like Kelty Hearts, what can they offer in relation to long-term football in Scottish? You know, you've got to have ambitions, but you tell me what they can bring supporter-wise and also facilities and everything, say, into the Championship or Premier League.
What they are, Dennis, for years back, the chap that's went into took his money out of Kelty Hearts, went into Raith Rovers, a guy called Dean McKenzie. Yeah. He took Kelty Hearts for nothing, done brilliant, got them into the league through Barry Ferguson and Lee Kevin Thompson, and got them promoted. Yeah. That's probably as far as they can go, Dennis. They are a community-run club, and obviously his money's been taken away, so there's anywhere near the budget they had. So the job that Michael Tidser has done over the last year and a half as a young manager, he's done brilliant, really, really good. And again, in that league, Arbroath a big hitter, Inverness a big hitter, Alloa good, Cove Rangers full-time, Queen of the South full-time. So you're probably looking at Kelty Hearts and maybe on a par with Dumbarton in terms of financially wise. So the job that he's doing there is unbelievable. But if Kelty Hearts stay in League One, that's a magnificent achievement. Magnificent compared to what other teams are paying, Dennis. You know what I mean? He's done a really good job for a young man.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've done absolutely brilliant. They're certainly worth mentioning.
And Arbroath, Dennis, you'll know, has always been a well-run club. Well-run club. And I would expect teams, certainly, if they don't win it, to basically still go up. I would expect Arbroath, because they're a well-run club. Well-run club. Financially well-backed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and moving finally into League Two tomorrow. Only 4 games on tomorrow. First one sees Peterhead go to Elgin City. You get Forfar Athletic against Stirling Albion, Stranraer against Clyde, and Spartans against Edinburgh City. And obviously East Fife against Bonnyrigg Rose. There doesn't appear to be a fixture for that tomorrow. So in a day of derbies, where obviously clubs are playing sides close to them, I'm going to Stranraer more. So go figure that one out, guys. But it is what it is. Clyde on the back of a good victory last week at home to Forfar. Comfortable 2-0 victory, which saw them move out of the bottom 2. And tomorrow's game against Stranraer can see them take a further step away from that bottom of the table. And fair play to Clyde supporters, by the way, who, in terms of they've been having basically a fundraiser, you know what I mean, in terms of, I think, a crowdfunding. And the club and the fans, or the club fans, sorry, have raised 55 grand and helped to pay Jordan Allen's wages. You know, so fair play to Clyde.
Cammy, you touched on the subject. You touched on the subject last week, and obviously I've not seen or heard anything on it. On the lad to lie in the pitch for 40 minutes, how was his injury?
I haven't heard anything, obviously, since that, as I say, being the fact he was a Spartans player.
Yeah.
But as I say, is Andy, if you didn't catch it last week, and possibly you'd be able to comment on this. I forgot the guy's name. I'm terribly sorry. Apologies to Spartan fans, but there was an incident in the game against Spartans 2 weeks ago tomorrow, Andy, where Martin Rennie and the player basically collided. Nothing dirty, you know, no filthy tackle or anything like that. You know, it was just one of the innocuous 50-50s. But essentially, the Spartans player's gone down. He's 34-year-old. The Spartans player's gone down, and he's not only dislocated his ankle or broke his ankle, but his foot was facing the wrong way. You know, so it's quite a severe, serious injury. Paul Watson, that's the fella. Thanks, Dennis. So Paul Watson, you might know of him. But as I say, his foot was facing the wrong way. So you've obviously, it's quite a severe ankle break. But for 40 minutes, Andy, bear in mind, 2 weeks ago, it was bloody frozen. You know, so for 40 minutes, he was left lying on the park, waiting for medical treatment. I think they were a bit scared to lift him, obviously, in case they were going to do further damage or whatever, you know. But I just commented last week on the fact, and Dennis will tell you, I kind of went off on one a wee bit in terms of, I didn't think it was right that you've got a player or a lack of medical facilities there, that a player's got to be left lying in the middle of the pitch on a cold, frozen, wet park for 40-odd minutes waiting for medical treatment. Not so much the NHS or getting an ambulance to him or anything like that, but I felt that there should be medical treatment available to all players should Dennis, the worst happen, you know, and should a bad injury happen.
Cammy, that's a bee in my bonnet. You...
Sorry, Andy, you faded away there, Andy.
I'm saying any club should be responsible for their workers. And we had it at Morton, not last summer, but the summer before we played at Annan. Lad Michael Doyle, who used to be at Morton, came in trial and dislocated his kneecap down at Annan. He waited over an hour for an ambulance to come. There was no doctor there. We never even had, and the problem was, regardless of forget Annan having a doctor, our club never had a doctor for our own player.
Andy.
No, what I'm going to say there is, do you think, I'll ask you a question, Cammy Dennis, and I know the answer. What had happened last night at the Rangers and St Mirren game, do you think that would have happened? Do you think that would have been, do you think they would have had to wait 40 minutes?
No. But Andy, and I raised this point last week, and that's why I think obviously your own input in it was, I can recall that you had to have either a doctor at the ground or one that was in call that you would be able to bring quickly to the attention of anyone that needed it. Is that not the case, or if I'm a dinosaur with what I remember used to be the case? I think Andy's frozen.
I think Andy's away there. I mean, Dennis, obviously, I remember it at Clyde. You know, we used to have the Scotland club. The Scotland doctor was in attendance at those Clyde games. You know, so I remember that, and I don't know whether we were just fortunate or what the score was there, but Andy's away altogether. I think his internet's chucked it. You know, but obviously we're going over old ground now. You know, it's just a shame Andy's dropped off there.
Just a question.
But as I say, you know how much I felt aggrieved. You know, not for the fans or anything else like that. I couldn't give a stuff about us guys standing there for 40 odd minutes waiting. And as I say, most supporters, other than one mindless freaking halfwit, you know, the usual dig a hole crap that fans like to come out with, you know, when it's no one of their players, who, by the way, get castigated by every other supporter on the ground, I will say that. But other than that, there wasn't any fans who were interested in themselves. They were all more concerned with, obviously, Paul Watson. And as I say, I just didn't feel it was right, the fact that a player should be left on the ground for 40 odd minutes, you know, waiting for attention from his own club. As I say, I'm not going to go at the NHS. I'm not going to go at anything else. The length of time it took an ambulance to get there. I just feel that the medical facilities should be on hand within the stadium.
Yeah. Well, we'll continue that in another week when Andy's back on, because I don't think we'll get him back now.
No, I don't think that's
we're finishing, Cammy, on the same note that we finished last week.
We finished on last week, yes. I know that, exactly.
So hopefully he's recovering and he's okay, and that was a real question, how he was. So
yeah, as I say, I don't know how he is. I haven't checked. What I did see, by the way, and I think I'll send you I think I might have sent it to you already, was obviously, you know, I like my American football. Andy was talking there earlier on about a player who's dislocated his kneecap a couple of weeks ago. There was a player on the game on, I don't think it was the Christmas Day games, I think it was last Saturday's games, where he's dislocated his kneecap. He's also tore his MCL, his PCL, and his ACL all at the one time. So there you go. That's just something else there. And again, another completely innocuous. It was actually his own player, you know. So another completely innocuous challenge there. But the television pictures of that one is pretty gruesome. So there we go.
Okay.
Anyway, I can tell I've lost you on that one. So.
No, well, you know what I'm about American football. I think the ball's a different shape. It doesn't work with me.
No, that's exactly, precisely. No commenting the shape of your balls, Dennis. But anyway, on that note, guys, Dennis, it's been a pleasure as always.
Good. Yes.
The last show of 2024 tonight. Right. So we've came 21 episodes. So fair play to folks who have listened to us, stuck with us, giving us a platform to have our inane ramblings. Yes. And as I say, you have been listening to the Friday Night Football Pitch with myself, Cameron McDonald, Dennis Newell, co-host, and Andy Millen was here as a guest star, but his internet's obviously, their guest of the show, but his internet's obviously chucked it. So guys, go ahead, like, subscribe, share with your pals, tell anybody about us. It's always happening on the pitch. Good night.
Good night.